The following demonstration will show you how to open up the SDS2 model for the first time. You should be in Project 1, parentheses, and then your 9-digit student ID, and then parentheses. And your fabricator should say NTC here up at the top. If you're not in that job, you need to change your project and select that job. If you do not have that project, you need to backtrack in your learning plans and create that project. So I'm going to select project 1 with my ID. Click on modeling icon. And this will take me into the modeling program. The first thing it's going to ask you is for a new erection view. Typically what I like to do is start off with a erection view at 100 foot 0 inches. You can see I did not put in the feet or inch marks. Anything on the left hand side of the dash is feet, and anything on the right hand side is inches. That is my view name. The elevation I am at is also going to be 100 foot 0. This is my preference. Some detailers, some fabricators like to name their elevation what it is. For example, typically 100 foot 0 is like the first floor level, so they would name this here first floor. I prefer it to read the same as the elevation, then it's just less confusing as what elevation you're at. Your preference. Next, erection view type, primary, we'll leave that as it is. Pen color, we're going to leave it as it is. And the line type, let's click on the third from the right center line and hit OK. Now you should have two green crosshairs on your screen. When you first open up modeling, it puts some two green crosshairs on the screen, and they are the center, the intersection of them two lines are at the 0 foot 0 coordinates, 0x, 0y, and at elevation 100 foot 0. I can show you this by picking my construction line add icon over here. Select that with your left click, and then as you come back over towards them green lines, you get near this one here, and I've got this icon here selected base off construction line. I get near that, and you can see this line here. If you look on the top here, it says my XYZ display. It tells me that line is at 90 degrees. If I go to the one here, look at the top of the screen, angle is at 0. Next, if I click on this icon here, this is intersection of two construction lines. I have two construction lines on my screen right now, and the intersection of them two, the only intersection is right there. So as I highlight that intersection, again at the top of my screen here, now I've got my XYZ display here. It says 0 for the X, 0 for the Y, and Z, I'm at 100 foot 0 inches. So them two crosshairs come in at 0, X, 0, Y, and then whatever elevation you're at. This is important for a few reasons. The major reason is if you are working on a larger job with multiple fabricators, everyone needs to start at the same origin point. Then if you merge your models together at a later time, they will merge together correctly. In our case here, it doesn't matter a whole lot, but typically you want to start at 0, 0. And for our project, we will look at our sheet S1, and we're going to use our column intersections of 1 and A. We're going to use that as 0, 0. Couple of things before we get started here with construction lines and grid lines and plan views. You can see my background on my screen is gray. Some people may not prefer that color. They may want a different color. So to change that, first of all, as you can see here, up in the upper left-hand corner, I have my current command I'm in. It's a point location. And here I have my button bindings, and they tell me what each mouse button does. My left button, my middle button, and my right button. Currently, I'm still in that construction line command, and it's asking me to locate a construction line. If I hit the escape button here, it'll exit me out of that command. If I hit my right button, which is return, it'll also exit out of that command. So I'm going to hit my right button and exit out of the command. And now you can see in the upper left-hand corner here, it just says select items. It's asking for you to select some items on your screen or to select the command. So very important to watch your button bindings up here, and then this status line here, as you do something, you can see it tells you what that command is going to do. Like here, if I highlight this one here, it says process create solids. As I highlight the icon on the top of my screen next to my button bindings, it also says process and create solids. Here, display options, add a construction line. Oh, skip this one. Change all to solid transparent main, and so on. We will get into these commands as we get further into the model. So back to the background. My background is gray. Maybe you prefer a different color. If we go up to options, user options, and then colors, we can change our background. Modeling background color 1 and modeling background color 2. You can change it to 2 different colors so it fades into each other from the top to the bottom. So if I pick modeling background color 1, here's my current color. If I want, let's say, black, let's go to black and hit OK, and hit OK. Now you can see my screen goes from gray to black. Go back to options, user options, black, and then the second color I'm going to pick black again, and OK. Now my screen's all black. So for this demonstration here, I'm going to leave it black. I think maybe the colors show up a little bit better. Again, it's your preference. So now we have 2 construction lines on the screen, and we need to add more construction lines. So looking at our sheet S1, the first thing we're going to do is, again, I set column line A, which is going horizontal on your drawing and horizontal on my screen here. I'm going to use that as 0, 0. So this line is at 0. So I'm going to go up here to construction line add, and your location icons here, I'm going to pick base off a construction line because the green lines are construction lines. And as I highlight over one of them, you can see it highlights. If I go over here, it highlights that one. So from this one here, I'm going to highlight it. With my button bindings, I can see the left button says locate. So I'm going to pick locate, and locating off from that line, according to my drawing S1, the next grid line B is 15 feet away. So 15-0, no feet and inches, repeat factor 1, and then I'm going to leave that green, and from this line here up on the screen is positive, below the line would be negative, and the vertical line to the right would be positive, to the left would be negative. So I'm going to leave it at a positive 15 foot 0, hit add. Then from that grid line that I just put in, it bases it off from the last grid line you put in. From that grid line, the next grid line is at 12 foot 0. I'm going to hit add. And the last grid line is 4 foot 9. From that one, I'm going to hit add. Now I'm done with adding them construction lines on horizontally, so I'm going to hit exit. Now, if you look at your button bindings and you're up in the upper left-hand corner here, I'm still in that command. In the status line, it still says add construction line. Now going back to construction line, add, based off from that one there, I'm going to turn my lock base position on now before I pick any. Then I'm going to go 18 foot 0. From 1 to 2 is 18 foot 0. Now, again, turn my lock base position on again. And we're going to go 28 foot 0 and hit add. And now it based it off from that first point. So I'm going to exit. Now your middle button on your mouse, if you scroll it, it zooms in and out. If you push down your middle button, it pans your screen. So I'm going to scroll in, and now I've got construction lines on my screen to match the grid lines on your print S1. If you want to verify you have these in the right spot, if we hit return here to escape out of our command we're in, on the side here you can see a ruler. If we pick that ruler, now you can see my binding buttons say locate, pan, and return. So if I pick this icon here, intersection of construction lines, it's going to snap to them intersection of construction lines. As I move across, you can see it snapping to them points. So if I pick this point here with my left button locate, my next point, you can see that's 15 foot. It gives me the dimension right away. On my prints, I can see it's 15 foot. So if I hit locate here, and I get your distance ruler comes up and it tells you a distance 15 feet. Pick the next point from there to there. It says that one's 12 feet. That matches. Go from there to there, 4 foot 9, that matches. Go from, now go horizontal on the screen from left to the next one, 18 foot, that matches. From that one to that one, 10 foot, and that matches. You may have noticed as I picked a couple of them spots, let's pick this one here, and we'll pick a diagonal one. It'll give me that diagonal dimension, and it will also give me the angle of that diagonal line that I picked. Distance, 23 foot 5 and 3/16. I'll pick an angle here. Angle 39.8056. 39.81, it rounds it up. So that's a way you can double check your construction lines, make sure you have them in correct, or later on we will add construction lines to certain materials and you can use that to check distances there also. Now let's get into adding the actual grid lines. To add the grid lines, we're going to go up to File, couple options I'm going to show you. File, Views, and grids, add grid mode. We're going to do add a grid line. As you can see, some of these pull downs have shortcut keys here. So if I'd hit GS on my keyboard, I would get add a grid line command. So that's one option. The other option is GS. The other third option is right here. There's an icon. It says add grid line. Now, it's asking me to add a grid line, but I need to tell it where to pick. So I'm going to hit my intersection construction line command, and I'm going to go from this point here to this point here. The 2 points I'm picking are the furthest most column grid lines going horizontal. So I'm picking grid line A and grid line C, and I'm at grid line 1. So I'm going to pick there to there, and I'm going to view name, I'm going to call that 1. A finite erection view grid line, I will explain that here in a little bit. We're going to leave that as that. Grid bubble setback, I'm going to put 2. My relative depth in and out, I'm going to set the top, the highest elevation of steel on our project is at 124 foot 0. So I'm going to just say 130 foot 0, and I'll explain this a little bit later also. And the bottom, I am going to say 99 foot 0. Erection view type primary, depth check. I'm going to depth check, let's leave that off. I'll explain that here in a little bit also. Grid line color white and center line, we'll leave that. And we will hit OK here. But before I hit OK, as you can see, this menu here, in pretty much every menu on SDS2, you have a help button. So if you have any question on what any of these fields will do when you fill them in, you can hit the help button. I'm going to minimize that down. Bring that back up here. So let's just say that grid bubble setback. What's that all about? We click on that and it takes us to grid bubble setback. The positive number, that is the factor by which the grid line will be extended in proportion to the diameter of its grid bubble. This applies when the grid line is finite. So any questions you have, click on the help menu and you can get information on what that field will do. Exit out of there. We're going to hit OK here. And you can see now we've got a white line with a grid bubble and it says 1. The next grid line over here, let's put that one in. We're still in the command, so we're going to left click for locate there. And before you left click locate here, I did not point out on my screen. You can see as I pull that across the screen, it looks like a triangle pointing to the left. You can see the out here the triangle points to the left. That's telling you which direction, as you cut this view, this grid line view, which direction that's going to look. So it's going to look to the left as it cuts it. So I'm going to select there, and this view I'm going to call 2. I'm going to leave it a finite 2, top and bottom. I'll leave everything as is, so hit OK. And the last one over here, do that quick the same way. Locate, locate. Now it's going to be 3. I'll hit OK. So now I have the grid lines in going vertically. Now I need the ones going horizontally. So the first one down here, I'm going to pick from the left side to the right side. Now you can see my triangle is pointing up, so it's saying it's going to cut it looking up on the screen. Now typically when you put in beams, you're looking from if they're going vertically on the screen, you put them from the bottom to the top of the screen, and that basically what that does is when you pick the beam points, the left end is at the bottom of the screen, and as you're looking at it, it's the left end. If I put a beam in on the screen horizontally, and I would pick this point over here and this point here for the next point, my left end is the first point I put in, and as I'm looking at it, it will be the left end. So same with the views. Typically you cut them from vertically on the screen, you dot from the bottom to the top, and if it's a horizontal view, you cut them from the left to the right. As you get to more complicated stuff with girts and stuff like that, some erectors like to cut everything looking from the outside of the building to the inside. It's just your choice. So I'm going to pick second point here. Pick A for the name. Same thing, leave it finite, 2, everything the same. Now here I'm going to stop. I'm going to hit return to exit this command. Up to this point we've been adding the grid lines by picking points, point A to point B. The next option I'm going to show you for adding grid lines is add a grid line. And instead of, again, picking point A and point B, there's a location icon up here. It's called base off from a grid line. So I'm going to click on that. And now you can barely see it, but as I go near this one, it highlights it. And if I go near this one, it's highlighting it. So if I go near this one here, and I hit my left button to locate, now it's saying dimension from that grid line. So from A to B, again, is 15 foot, 15-0. View name is B. I'll leave it as 2 for the setbacks. Top and bottom are good. Everything else here is good, so I'm going to hit add. Now you can see that grid line popped up there. Now, just like it was with the construction lines, the last grid line we added in, we can base the next grid line off from that one. So off from B to B.7 is 12 foot 0. My name would be B.7. And I'm going to hit add. My last grid line is C, which is 4 foot 9. I'm going to hit C, add. I'm going to hit cancel because I'm done. Now you can see all my grid lines are in there. So the construction lines that we put in are not completely necessary to put all of them in. If you put in grid line 1 and A, construction line is enough to get that in. You can base all the other construction lines off from the previous one. That ends the lesson on how to add your first plan view and your elevation views.